Buffalo Bills finished the 2022 regular season at 13-3, taking down the Patriots 35-23.
You are now listening to the Watering Buffalo podcast with your hosts, Justin Goddard and Andrew Chang.
Bills Mafia, welcome into another episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show on the Buffalo FAMBase podcast network. Bills just coming in, taking down the Patriots 35-23. Before we get into any of that, just want to start off, obviously a very emotional week for the Buffalo Bills, for us as fans. The injury to Damar Hamlin last Monday. So glad to be able to come on the episode today and, at this point have some positive news about Damar. And we saw him kind of slowly improving throughout the week. And I say slowly, based on everything we've heard from the doctors, he's, really making great strides, but everything felt so slow as it was happening. Just the amount of time I spent just scrolling social media, hoping, some sort of update came out that I had missed, or, kind of waiting 12, 24 hours in between hearing anything, to be able to get to this game today and have Damar be, awake again and being able to FaceTime his teammates, kind of between him and his father, tell him, get out there, get after it. Just a real relief going into the game, knowing that we were seeing improvement from Damar. So I just want to start off the episode there, and really happy to hear the good news. I know there's, still quite a long road for him on his way back to recovery. But for how scary the injury looked and how everything looked at the time, to see where we are now from where we were last Monday, just great to see. So before we dive into this breakdown of the Bills-Patriots game, this episode is brought to you by 26 Shirts. Great clothing, doing great work in the community. Did see some designs out there supporting Damar Hamlin. So go ahead and check out 26 Shirts. And we are also brought to you by our friends over at BetStamp. BetStamp is like the Expedia for sports betting. Betting is legalized in New York now, so you're looking to put some money on your favorite team, maybe throw in a couple parlays across the NFL as the season's winding down into the playoffs. Check out BetStamp. They're going to let you shop your lines across all the different betting platforms and make sure you're getting the best odds, the best return on your investment. If you are going to play some sports bets, might as well make a little extra money doing it. So we're going to dive into this episode and this game, and I'm going to touch on it more later in the episode, but how about the start to that game? All the emotion building up into this game. What are the Bills going to look like coming out to play? Are they going to be ready to go? Is it going to take a while to get going? And the Patriots defer to the second half of the kickoff, and Nyheim Hines takes it to the house. I mean, dude, watching this live on TV and kind of everything building up to that moment, like you can't write these stories if you're writing a book. There is nothing more perfect to start the game than just seeing that go all the way back to the house, and then just kind of going down the sideline. Josh is like, he can't believe it happened. And you see Nyheim Hines after that on the sideline, kind of tears rolling down his cheeks, and just what it meant for the team to get out there and start the game that way. It was just a beautiful thing to see. Obviously, throughout this game, ends up being kind of a little bit of a tighter contest through the end of the game. But the Bills do come away with the victory, and just a game that was so meaningful for these players, this organization. I'm sure, Damar watching from the hospital bed just probably did a ton to kind of boost his spirits too. So just a great way to start the game, and then kind of a great way to finish out the game as we see one later. But we'll get into that. Going to start off with on the offensive side of the ball. Josh Allen, kind of I guess kind of a so-so day for Allen. It seemed like he started a bit slow. And when I look at the final numbers for the game, as far as an Allen day, I mean, obviously we've seen bigger games. I'm accounting into this too, because of Nyheim Hines. The offense has 2 less possessions to work with. So overall, despite seeming a little bit slow on offense, a little bit, I guess, ends up having a pretty good day. 19 for 31, 254 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and then adding 9 carries for 16 yards. Nothing crazy there. I kind of want to touch on the 1 interception that he did have, and obviously that was right before half. He's trying to find a play down the field and takes a hit as he's releasing the ball. This is one of the plays to me where, yes, I would love to, at least get a field goal going into half. Love to put up 7 points. Love to, get an easier completion there and have a few more shots at the end zone. But this is the type of play where, I see that happen from Allen and people jump all over him. You can't have the turnover there, all that. I don't disagree. A couple of things. I mean, he is throwing it while he's getting hit. He wasn't able to step all the way through it. But this is also kind of what you ride with Josh Allen. We saw the play a few weeks ago where the clock's expiring going into half, and you're thinking, oh, now we're not even going to get a field goal out of this, and ends up throwing a touchdown. I think it was to James Cook. And this type of play here is kind of in the same vein as that of, he's going to have some really dramatic, heroic plays doing stuff like that. There's going to be some mistakes along the way too. And honestly, for the day he ends up having and being able to end up with 3 touchdowns, the absolutely gorgeous ball to Stephon Diggs for a touchdown. And then right towards the end of the game, kind of a scramble drill play similar to the one right before half, is able to hit Gabe Davis, who isn't able to haul it in. That would have been another something like 30-yard touchdown. Kind of doing the same thing as we saw right before half. So, I mean, ideally, yeah, I want to go the whole season and have, 40-something touchdowns and no interceptions. With a guy like Josh Allen, there's some high-risk throws that he makes because he's like one of the only quarterbacks in the league that can get away with it. So occasionally the defense is going to win, and I'm not going to lose sleep over that interception. As far as the run game goes, kind of a pedestrian game for what we've been seeing recently. We've had some big games out of those guys in the past few weeks, and we end up with James Cook, 9 carries for 45 yards. Singletary, 7 carries for 29 yards. Obviously had that really bad fumble right after, Trey White makes a great play to get an interception, get the defense off the field. Patriots are driving. They're like inside the 10, and you're able to keep them from getting points on the board. And then 2 plays later, Singletary coughs it up, and they get the ball right back at their 11. So obviously, not ideal there. But this was still a game where I would have liked to see a little bit more from the run game, in particular from James Cook. I feel like we kind of have a changing of the guard starting at running back, and who knows what happens going into next season. Singletary's contract is up, And Cook has really been emerging as a very reliable back over the past few weeks. So kind of to see him in this game, averaging 5 yards a carry, and then especially as we get towards the tail end of the game and we're kind of like still ripping passes with, I think we had like a 12-point lead at the time. Just would like to see the run game sprinkled in a little bit more at times. And for a guy like Cook that has shown the explosiveness, and he's now developed into showing kind of that consistency of falling forward and getting, even if it's 3-4 yards, the positive gains. I think he's earned himself into kind of that 15 touches a game realm there. And, especially after, you're beating people up with the pass, you're hitting them with like a draw play or some of those delayed handoffs or counters. He has the ability to break those for not only big chunks, but he can take it to the house on any given play. So overall, I could see a little bit more from Cook, and I guess most importantly, very happy to see the development that we've seen from him going into the playoffs. And hopefully he's a huge weapon down the stretch here for us. Into the receiving game, finally got Diggs back into that 100-yard column. It's been, 5-6 weeks since he had a 100-yard game. And this was something that, as I was taking notes watching the game, there was an emphasis to get the ball to Diggs early, and I think he had like 49 yards at halftime, and then there was kind of a lull, like mid to late second quarter and third quarter, where he wasn't really seeing as many targets, and starting to feel like, man, we really need to be getting Diggs involved here. And then, of course, we see a 50-yard touchdown from Allen, just a beautiful double move from Diggs. And to me, watching that live, I thought Allen overthrew him, and Diggs turned on those burners and got there. Absolutely beautiful play. Love to see that. So super cool to see Diggs get, over 100 again, able to get a touchdown. And then some contributions from players that we don't see a ton from, and not like, I guess, giant volume of targets or giant volume of work. But we see Smoke Brown get in there. Just that play from Smoke was so underrated, and that's the type of thing I think you bring John Brown back in the building for. That chemistry with Allen, it's a broken play. His route is dead, and you just see Allen kind of point upfield, and Smoke just kind of bends it off and sprints upfield and pulls in a 42-yard touchdown from Josh Allen. I'm pretty sure it was his only target of the day. And hey, that's not bad for a contribution. 1 catch, 42 yards, and a touchdown. And then similar from Khalil Shakir, he ends up having 1 grab for 28 yards. There was 1 target for him earlier in the game, in the back of the end zone. The ball was underthrown. I would have liked to see Shakir fight back for it a little bit. I don't think he was coming away with that catch anyways, but I do like seeing him being sprinkled into the game plan and just getting a little bit more work. He's a player that I'm expecting big things from. So just seeing him in the mix makes me pretty excited for the future of him as a player. We saw Isaiah McKenzie get 2 catches, 19 yards. Dawson Knox 2 catches, 13 yards. He did have like another, I'd say probably about 12, 13-yard catch that gets called back on a chop block, I believe it was. And Knox is somebody that I've been talking about all season. I love the way he moves with the ball in his hands. He's always finishing plays physical. And I think he's just a mismatch for defenses that we really need to be exploiting more. So I think he had 3-4 targets in this game. I'd like to see it be a few more personally, but I like that he's been more involved in the game plans than we saw earlier in the season. And he rewards Josh Allen with a touchdown today too. And then last for the receivers, I got to put Gabe Davis last here. He wasn't like last statistically, but he has 3 catches for 39 yards. And the reason I put him last here is it's not so much just the yards, it's the efficiency of the targets. I already spoke about the ball that he didn't haul in the end zone. There was another one early in the game that would have been a catch for a first down. There was another instance of him having an opportunity to pull in a sideline catch. And what's wild to me is how amazing he was at the sideline balls last year. It seemed like 50% of his catches that he was getting last year were some ridiculous toe drag that they're going under the hood to look at, and he manages to pull it in. And there's another, the one today was another instance. I think it was 2 weeks ago we saw one similar that just wasn't even close. Like, it wasn't like the second foot coming down just out of bounds. It was like the first foot is half out of bounds. So he ends up with, like I said, the 3 catches, but that's also on 10 targets. So when we see some of the inefficiency there, and talking about a guy like Dawson Knox, who I'd like to see get more targets, a guy like Shakir that I would like to see get more targets. Even if you translate it into the running game, talking another 5 touches a game for James Cook. I understand it's not going to be, 100% efficiency. You're going to catch every target thrown your way. Not every ball thrown to him in this game was perfect. I'm not saying any of that. But 3 receptions on 10 targets, it's just not numbers that are cutting it for a number 2 receiver in this league. As far as the offensive line goes, thought they had a pretty good day against this Patriots defense. Guy like Matt Judon out there, he's one of the best pass rushers in the league. He's going to get involved in some plays, and they do end up giving up 2 sacks. Not an overly productive game rushing the ball. So I don't think they were by any means bad in this game. I don't think they were overwhelming. I thought they had a pretty average day, and mixing that performance in with Josh Allen's ability to move the pocket and keep plays alive, it's going to go a long way for you in most games. So do I think there was room for improvement today? Sure. But overall, I thought they did a pretty good job kind of keeping Josh Allen clean. Like I said, you got a guy like Judon coming after your quarterback. He's going to get his once in a while. So overall, pretty pleased with the offense today. It did look like we had a little bit of lulls in there. Some drives stalled out on some incomplete passes, things like that. But the end of the day, 35 points total for the team, 21 of those coming from the offense. Not too shabby of a day. So that's going to wrap it up for this portion of the show. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk about the special teams and the defense. Stick around. Bills Mafia, it's your boy Justin from the Wandering Buffalo podcast here for our friends over at BetStamp. If you're not familiar with BetStamp, it is a line shopping app for all sports betting that's going to help you get the best odds when you're placing a bet. So think of BetStamp as like a Trivago or Expedia for placing bets. So it's going to search across all the major betting platforms and make sure you're getting the best odds. So if you're going to be doing sports betting anyways, why stick to one gambling app when you could get better odds going across multiple platforms? You want to make sure you're getting the most return on your investment. BetStamp also lets you track all your previous bet history See what's working for you, what's not working, what trends may be emerging. Make sure that you're making the most educated bets you can going forward. Check out BetStamp today and start cashing in on your bets tomorrow.
Hey, this is Brother Bill. Now back to the show.
Welcome back in, and thank you again for joining me on this week's episode of The Wandering Buffalo. If you made it this far in the show, do me a favor before you log off today. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about the show. Anything you can do like that really helps us out to keep this show going. We're going to dive back into this show. We're talking about the special teams here, and not an area that I typically spend a ton of time on, but just an absolute monster of a game from Nyheim Hines. Like we already talked about, the opening kickoff, taking that back for a touchdown and just kind of opening up the emotions and just making everybody feel like you're on the football field again. It was just crazy to see. That one right there is going to be a football memory that sticks with me, for the next 25 years. Just the whole kind of sequence of this week, and to come out and start the game that way, 96-yard touchdown. Oh, but wait, he's not done. He has another one later in the game, takes it back for a 101-yard touchdown. And I'm sitting there thinking, he might be the only guy in NFL history that's ever taken back two kickoffs, had two kick returns for touchdowns in the same game. Well, he wasn't. It's happened quite a few times before. But still, he is now one of 10 people to have done it in the history of the NFL. So still pretty crazy. Definitely the only multiple kickoff return touchdown game that I ever remember witnessing. There's probably a Devin Hester one in there or something in my lifetime. But absolute monster of a game from him. Tyler Bass, 5 for 5 on PATs. Woo! He stays pretty consistent. We've seen a couple instances of, some misses from him. But for the most part, he's been super consistent and probably the top two kickers in the AFC this year. Maybe Justin Tucker edges him out. But for what he's asked to do for this team, and, a lot of it being PAT work because our offense is scoring touchdowns, he's just been great this season. And if we have a game, down the stretch here that comes down to a field goal winning opportunity, I feel very confident in Bass. I feel great in our field goal operation. Ferguson, Sam Martin holding it. Feel good about that going into the playoffs. The only real gaffe we had here on special teams today was the weird punt return. Hines is kind of waving everybody off, and Tywan Jones kind of gets blocked into it. This was right after Trey White has, a great defensive play to stop, I believe it was to Parker, stop the Patriots from converting, a really big pass play. It ends up bopping Parker right off the face. Trey kind of gets his hand in there to distract him long enough to not complete the catch. And then we bump into the punt. It becomes a live ball. The Patriots recover it. I don't know what the rules are there if you're allowed to block people into the ball. I assume it's legal, and I guess I have to say that it's a great play by Slater. It seems kind of Bush League to me, but hey, if that's kind of the worst thing we're talking about coming out of this game, it is what it is. But overall, great day on special teams, minus that play. Defensively, I thought we had a pretty good game, all things considered. We had some timely turnovers, and this is sometimes what the Bills' defense looks like when they play this bend but don't break style, where we're giving up decent amounts of yards on the ground, giving up some passing yards, and then they kind of come up and make the tackle, get off the field. I thought overall they did a pretty good job of that today. I mean, yeah, New England puts up 21 points. A couple big plays given up. But I thought the defensive line, again, looked good in this game. Another game that we can talk about without Von Miller in there, that we were getting contributions from that defensive front. We start off right in the beginning of the game. Groot gets in there for a sack on Mac Jones, and Shaq Lawson won't get credit on this one, but if Groot was a half second later, Shaq Lawson was there for the sack too. So great to see him firing early. I thought Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver both had that kind of really quiet defensive tackle game where it's not showing up on the stat sheet, but if you're watching the game, you see them interrupting plays in the backfield and really penetrating up the field to open up the lanes for the linebackers and even the defensive backs. I saw Taron Johnson was a benefactor from this several times today. And overall, I thought it let the linebackers play pretty free, who both of them had pretty great days today. Milano and Edmonds both come away with picks in this game. Tremaine had the really good pressure on Mac Jones where he just keeps forcing him back and back and back. Mac Jones ends up throwing it away at the last second. Edmonds also had, I think it was like a 3rd and 1. He batted a pass down that looked like it was going to end up being a first down. I thought both the linebackers were kind of playing all over the place, and I think this game was a very good example of that defensive front being able to create room for these linebackers to work, to give them opportunities at the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage. So just a great overall team effort from I guess that front seven. And then in the secondary, we did see some stuff given up today, but for the most part, it was kind of that dink and dunk. We're going to allow stuff underneath and come up and make the tackle. I spoke about it earlier. Seeing Trey White come away with an interception today was awesome. I feel like he has had some struggles coming back from this ACL, just kind of getting up to speed, which was to be expected. But it's great to see him, getting out there, making plays. He was running step for step with the receiver on that play and comes away with the interception. Just really awesome to see him kind of hitting his stride as we get into the postseason here. We've seen some inconsistency at the cornerback 2 spot this year between, Kyrie Elam, Dane Jackson, Benford when he's out there. To have Trey White back out there and getting back to being who he is as we are about to start the playoffs it's just awesome timing to see it. Low-key, great move bringing back Dean Marlowe a few weeks ago. Just that safety depth was a concern throughout the season, and obviously you don't expect, what happened to Hamlin this week to be a reason that Marlowe ends up in the game. But I thought he did more to help the team than hurt the team back there today. Sound play from a veteran that knows the system. Same thing we've been talking about all year. It's never going to be a 1-for-1 swap for Micah Hyde. But I thought it was a good move bringing him back in. And then Jordan Poyer, being Jordan Poyer, another great game. Led the team in tackles. The Bills now improved to 12-0 on the season when Poyer's in the lineup. So obviously kind of like a heart and soul of this defense player. Makes up for, kind of deficiencies, little mistakes here and there from other people, really, being your safety. But another week that I'm going to be pounding the table to extend Jordan Poyer. He's so important to what this defense does, and just an overall great day again out there. Looking forward, I'm recording this right after the Bills game here, so we got to see how the rest of the games shake out. It looks like, I believe we're going to have Miami week 1 of the playoffs. Don't quote me on that. We got to see these games get finalized. But hey, we know the Bills will be there, ready to play. So really exciting to wrap up this season. And now that we're getting towards the end of it, it feels like it takes forever to get to the season when we're in the off season, and then the season just flies by and it's over in a blink of an eye. So I guess what I'm looking forward to most, not only in this playoffs, is just cherishing and enjoying the rest of the season. It's so great having a really electric team that plays, this team football, that loves and rides for each other and really able to come together. I think we saw that on display in a very big way this week. So hopefully they go out there and take care of business in the playoffs, win the whole damn thing. We'll wrap it up tonight with we'll start with the tablet player of the game, the Ken Dorsey tablet player of the game. For me, that's got to be Gabe Davis today. All the things I spoke about earlier in the show. It's not that he's not making contributions. It's kind of that the optimism that we had for him this season and the opportunities being there and just not really being able to convert and live up to what our expectations were from the tail end of last year and even the beginning of this year. And I've spoken about it a lot on the show. Maybe that ankle still isn't 100% and they just don't really want to talk to us about that. Maybe it's something else going on. But even early in the season, we saw some amazing things from him. He's still making contributions, but the efficiency just isn't quite there for me. Hopefully we can see him, blow up in the playoffs again and really surprise some teams. And then I'll wrap up tonight with the player of the game. And there's a lot of people that, could have been it for this game. Stephon Diggs had a monster game. I mentioned Taron Johnson playing out of his skin today. Milano, Edmonds, Trey White, all coming away with some pretty big turnovers in this game. But there's one guy that ruined that for everybody today. And come on, we know who the player of the game was, Nyheim Hines. And for what it's worth, I think he might have been my player of the game if he only had the one kickoff return for a touchdown. Just in the fashion that it happened, the opening kickoff, everything building up to this, everything we talked about, just what that touchdown meant to the team. And then he goes ahead and throws another one in there, like 200 yards of return yards for 2 touchdowns. Just a legendary day from him. So that's my guy for player of the game. Hey, if you guys want to throw a comment in there, you think it should be somebody else, feel free to throw a comment down below. I don't think you're going to change my mind on this one, but hey, go for it. But that's going to do it for today's episode. We will be back next Monday. Again, if you've made it this far, please like, share, subscribe, hit all those social buttons for us. Really helps the show out, and we appreciate it. We will talk to you next Monday, and go Bills!